Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's 4:04. Given that it's a lot of moms who run businesses, I want to be very conscientious about respecting time and schedule. We'll get started and hopefully more people will join us as we go. My name is Marie Doyon. I'm the digital editor for Chronogram Media. I am not a mom or business owner, but I am a woman and have considered doing both of those things at some point in my life. So I will be here. I'm really excited. I think today's going to be a rich conversation and lots to learn. So this panel is taking the lead women entrepreneurs in the Hudson Valley. And today specifically, we are going to be talking about we're going to be talking with women who own their own businesses and are also mothers, and all of the triumphs and tribulations that brings with it, especially given the last year and all of the challenges that the pandemic posed. So back last June, we actually did a feature called The Juggle is Real, which was specifically about this topic. And then more recently in the April issue, we did a feature called Taking the Lead about women entrepreneurs. And alongside that, we published a guide to women business owners in the Hudson Valley. So that's a little bit of context. The April issue is online. It's on shelves at your local trendy coffee shop now. And before we get started, I just wanted to say that this panel is co-sponsored by Etain and by Hudson Valley Women in Business. And we actually have the founder of Hudson Valley Women in Business with us on our panel, Lauree Ostrofsky. You'll meet her in a minute. The owner of Etain couldn't join us today, so I'm going to say a couple of words on her behalf. So Etain Health is New York's only family-run, women-owned, and operated medical marijuana company. And they are committed to manufacturing clean, safe, and consistent medical marijuana products for the patients of New York State, maybe hopefully soon more than just patients. And Etain was founded in honor of their family matriarch, Frances Granny Fanny Keith. During her battle with ALS, they all witnessed firsthand the comfort and strength that medical marijuana was able to provide her. And so now they founded this company, and their mantra is take a moment with Etain. And their belief is that their products meet the diverse needs of the community by delivering the highest quality and purest products so that their customers feel good about investing in their own well-being. They were one of the first 5 medical marijuana licenses in New York, and they have dispensaries in Yonkers, Syracuse, and Midtown East in the city, as well as a location on Ontario Trail in Kingston. So that's another woman-owned business, and I'm sad that they couldn't join us today, but I'm grateful to them for sponsoring. So now, let's meet our panelists. First, I'll just go in the order that you guys are appearing on my screen. We have Anita Pierce with us. Maybe you can wave as I say your name. Anita Pierce is the principal owner of 11375, which is a small business consultancy. We also have Esther Downton, who runs Eliza and Wyld, which is plant-based remedies. And we have Benedetta Barbaro, who is the owner of the Hudson Valley's first vegan food truck, the Green Palate, which also won a very prestigious 2020 Chronogrammys Award, and is probably gunning for a 2021 Chronogrammys Award. And finally, we have Lauree Ostrofsky, who is the founder of the professional coaching company Simply Leap, and the group Hudson Valley Women in Business, which she recently told me has over 3,000 members. So if you are a woman-owned business in the Hudson Valley, consider joining. And even if you don't join, know that you are in good company. There are a lot of you out there. So that's just their kind of brief one-line intros. But I want to turn it over to you guys now to introduce yourselves, say a little bit about your business, just to get us going, and also say a little bit about your family situation, how many kids you have, since that's a relevant part of the conversation today. Anita, would you kick us off?
I sure will. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Wednesday, I believe it is, because sometimes we mix up the days of the week. So my name is Anita Pierce, and I am a Brownsville, Brooklyn native. I am one that is really curious about life. I'm a Converse sneaker lover, so just in case you want some fun facts about me. And my background includes financial services, nonprofit management. I'm currently the principal owner of 11375, which is a minority women business enterprise consultancy, which pretty much focuses on filling the gap, the growth gap for small businesses, corporations, and also government agencies. We serve as also community and also business advocates that facilitate socially responsible programs that promote overall wellness within key areas of financial services, civic, and also mental wellness. We also provide training to support diversity and equity and inclusion within the workspace. And I'm also the host and a producer of 2 online broadcasts, which is The Real Journey of the Entrepreneur and also the Brownsville Minute. And so, to the real reason why we're here, I am the mother of 1, but sometimes it feels like she's 5 children in one. I am married and also, just a business owner. So I have one 6-year-old.
Awesome. How about you, Benedetta?
Sorry, I wanted to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Benedetta Barbaro. I'm the owner of the Green Palate. I am a Sicilian native, but raised in Brooklyn. And I transferred up here about 11 years ago with my husband to start a family, and which led to the business being born first. So we're in business about 10 years now, and we're not just a food truck. The food truck is about 4 years old now. We started off just supplying restaurants with vegan alternatives, plant-based alternatives. We had Woodstock's first pop-up outdoor cafe for a couple of years on a grill and under a tent with some bistro tables. Really, really fun seasonally. And then that led into the food truck. We also cater full service or just drop off locally, weddings.
I think she just cut out. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. And then lastly, we supply cafes, restaurants, and also the supermarkets like Sunflower, Mother Earth, all the way from Brooklyn to Albany with our packaged products for the shelves. And I am the mother of 2, an 8-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy. And Anita, I know exactly how you feel. It's like 12 kids. I feel like I'm just cooking and feeding all day. So it's always snack time. And yeah, married 13 years. I think that's it.
Awesome. I'm already impressed, and we haven't even dived into the conversation yet. Esther.
Right. Yeah, so my name's Esther Downton. I'm not a native New Yorker like you guys, as you can probably tell. Originally from England, but in America now for nearly 10 years. I think next year is my 10-year New York anniversary. And yeah, I started my business. My background is in branding and marketing, and that's kind of what I've done my entire life or career. But I started my company, Eliza and Wyld, in 2018, just as I was coming out of a pretty heavy postpartum experience of my second daughter, Eliza. So Eliza and Wylder are my daughters. And I kind of named my company after them because really through the experience of having the two of them has driven me into kind of give me the kind of velocity to start my own business and really kind of transfer out of the life of you know, being someone who is an employee to someone who's hopefully an employer in the future. So my company is started off really predominantly CBD products, being that was the thing that kind of helped me get through my postpartum experience, and just made me fall in love with the plant. So I'm very happy that Etain are sponsoring this amazing conversation. And yeah, I've now focusing more on leveraging the function of plants and botanics and mushrooms to create products that help sustain women. So yeah, I'm kind of driving my business definitely through my own experience of things that have helped sustain me. So that's it. So 2 girls, Eliza and Wylder. Wylder's 5 and Eliza is 2.5. And
you also have your hand full. Hands full.
Been wiping pretty much all day.
Nice. And Lauree, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. So as Marie already mentioned, I'm owner of Simply Leap, which is a business consulting and marketing consulting business. And I also am the founder of Hudson Valley Women in Business. We just celebrated our 6th anniversary, and we have 3,000 members around the Hudson Valley region, women at every stage of business ownership, from the idea stage. As Marie mentioned, kind of the thinking about it stage is an okay time to join us, because you're going to get ideas and mentorship from within our community. And we have seasoned professionals all the way, 10, 20 plus years in business for themselves. So it's just a really rich conversation all the time. When people ask me if I have kids, I always say I have parents, because caregiving goes in both directions. The weekend I just had with getting my parents vaccinated, their 2nd vaccine shot was enough to make me want to hide in a corner for a while. So I can't imagine what having them living with you is like. But I will say that I have, my partner has 2 kids, 8 and 14, and they were just here for a week. And a week is not the same as every day. But what I'll say is I put my business on hold to be there for them, to make meals, to answer all their questions while he was working. And in that brief period of time, I feel like I have something to contribute to this conversation. But I'll also say, because it's important, that the women on this panel really have something rich to offer. And the perspective that I'll plan to share is mostly from what I'm hearing from within our community, because we have a lot of moms and entrepreneurs within our community. And we actually just posed a question today about this conversation. And so I'll be sharing some of the feedback that I'm hearing from within our community and those perspectives.
Awesome. And we're off. So, I mean, Lauree, as you know, starting a business at any time is daunting, especially when you add a pandemic to it. And I just want to start with a question that's kind of before or beyond kids. To each of you, did you feel like when you were starting your business that you kind of had to like elbow out a space as a woman in your respective industry? Like, did you have to kind of either swim against the current or just like kind of fight to carve out space for yourself? If anyone is jumping at the mic, just jump in. But otherwise, Lauree, you can go.
I can start with my my genesis about how I started. I didn't start my business in the pandemic. I actually started after being let go from my previous employer, and that was stressful in itself because at the time I was not married. At the time I was a new mother and aiming to figure out why I was getting rejected because I felt like I needed to go back into the workplace once my position was eliminated. And once I figured out that I can enjoy the summer with the kid and wear spandex, this is when I was in Brooklyn, that I decided that I wanted to figure out how to make my own way. And it was terrifying. Make no mistake about entrepreneurship; it is very scary, and it's even more intimidating, scary, daunting, all of the words that you can think of when you have a small child. And at the time, again, as I mentioned, I didn't have, I guess, a security blanket of another spouse. I had some savings, but I didn't have like a whole heck a lot of, I wasn't super rich. But just thinking about creating a space really centered for me around how and what I believe my gift was to offer. And so it was more of me figuring out my confidence level, or AKA my swag, that I like to call it, to be able to sell the business and have people say, yeah, I want to purchase something from this particular business. And then the other thing too, thinking about, obviously I'm a woman of color, and thinking about that layer of added in what it looks like doing business as a woman of color. So not only am I a woman, right? Now I'm a mother, and then eventually I became someone's wife. It now was, I'm a woman of color. How are people going to receive it? Is it going to be all of the perceived perceptions or stereotypes that come with dealing with a woman as being a woman and also a woman of color? So it's scary. And there are phases, even as I'm, growing the business now, that still has me like, gut wrenching. But I know that that's like my pulse that lets me know that, yeah, you better keep going because you don't want to go back. And now, that's happening. Is just about really doing it forward. And as Lauree always say, you do it scared anyway. And it's just really important to keep going forward. So I will pause because I can talk as if we're sitting on the couch.
Yeah, what you're saying is making me think that, a lot of like this historical, just like women being kind of second class citizens, like we internalize a lot of that stuff. So it sounds like part of the work that you had to do was internally making space, like to believe that this is something that you could do, and like gathering your forces and reserves of strength to kind of tackle it.
I was actually going to say exactly that. I think the hardest thing for me was battling with the inner voice, because I think that is, as women, I think we are just very multifaceted individuals, and that's our strength. But I think that can also we're fighting against that a lot of the time. And I think self-belief for me has just been the straight up hardest thing out of all of it, because I think you can kind of talk yourself into loads of reasons why not, rather than loads of reasons why you should. And I think for me, the biggest struggle was kind of controlling that inner voice and steering it and kind of shutting it down and being like, no. And I remember mornings driving my eldest to school in the car and literally talking out loud to myself while my infant is in the car seat, just kind of going, well, why shouldn't you do it? Why shouldn't you do it? And it's, like a crazy person, which I did feel like a crazy person at that time. But I think that we do so much negative talk to talk ourselves out of actually taking that leap and moving into that kind of scary space, which is incredibly scary. and sometimes that voice can win. And for me, part of the battle was just really beating that voice back and trying to really shift the chatter that was going on to be more, you can do this, and why not you? And you've got great ideas, you've been very successful. Like, just because you've been wiping bottoms for 3 months, you know, and doing all of this, it doesn't mean that you can't, you know, have a great idea and make someone else happy. And people are going to buy things from you because your products are great. You know, it's that kind of voice can definitely drown out a lot of things. So for me, I think, rather than really, to be honest, I didn't think about a lot of expectations of me other than my own when I was starting. And
it sounds like you kind of have to hype yourself up.
Yeah, you need a hype. You definitely need hype. You need a hype person. And that's where I think I talk a lot to women to get their points of view to help me kind of control that voice. I think women can be very useful and helpful to each other, which is why Lauree's organization is so good, because it gives that space for women to be able to kind of exchange those and be that voice that says, go do it, you know, or you're doing great, or don't worry about it, you know.
Yeah, I want to jump in there, Esther, because it does feel really lonely to own a business. So it feels like no matter how much support we have from friends and family, it's like, I believe in what you're doing over there. It feels really lonely in our heads trying to figure it out. And that, and so having people we can talk to, having this kind of panel and opportunity is a good one. Having a community like ours, or any space where we feel like we can be our full selves, because I think that there's some compartmentalization, you know, that word, that is required for, it feels like you're a mom over here, you're, you know, friend over here, you're worker over here, and we need places where it's okay to be our full selves and our messy selves while we're trying to figure it out. And I love what you said, Esther, about talking to yourself out loud. I have to tell you, like, as an introvert, being in front of people, like, I never thought that my living would be speaking to people and like in the front of a room at networking events. But before every one of them, I am speaking out loud to myself in the shower, in the car. You're okay. Sometimes I just start there. You're okay. It's going to be fine. You know, like, everybody's going to take care of themselves. It's going to, you know, it's going to work. People wouldn't show up if they weren't already ready for this, or, you know, people are going to buy what it is that we have to offer. So there's the self-talk that's really important. There's people that's supporting you. Absolutely. And then the other thing that I want to say, what you both have said so far, and I bet Benedetta will say it as well, is that so many businesses are started out of a need that we have, whether that is carving out specific time and that autonomy and freedom to be able to handle all aspects of our lives, or, you know, as Esther mentioned, solving a problem that we needed to solve first and then realized other people had the same problem. And Hudson Valley Women in Business, it really started because I moved back to the Hudson Valley, was working from home, really lonely, only knew my parents, you know, those adult children that I have, and needed other people, needed to be around people who really understood uniquely what it was like as a woman and a business owner. And I feel like we're braver when we're working together. So it's, yeah.
I think we might have lost Benedetta. If you're out there in the ether, Benedetta, please chime in. I don't see her name on here. So I think for now, we'll just keep going and hope that her service connection or child crisis or whatever it is that is happening gets resolved. So segueing a little bit into the mompreneur talk, I'm interested to hear from all of you how you and your partner were, I think you all have partners now, right? How you and your partner were managing childcare and professional responsibilities, pre-pandemic, and then kind of compare that to what the last year has been, just so that we can get a sense of like where you've come from and what you've been up against.
Well, I'll just jump in. So before the pandemic, I was full-time. I'm a full-time mum, and my husband was working full-time, is still working full-time and has done throughout. So I've always said I built the business in nap times and night times. And that's very true. The kid goes to sleep and it's just work. And that's just the way it kind of was. So COVID didn't make a big difference, except for as COVID kicked in, my business picked up, because my business is very much around self-care. And that obviously, as COVID started, self-care became fundamentally important to all of us. And focusing,
it's also web-based, right?
It's an e-commerce business, yes,
right,
although I am in retail, but yes. But I think because my product being CBD, and our sort of CBD subscription service, which was the thing that I'd kind of launched as COVID kind of launched, that was very much in demand. So my business was picking up as COVID was, rolling into full effect. So it was I didn't have the problem before and it was a good problem to have. But it was a big struggle. And so trying to figure out, it just meant that, longer nights. But my husband and I would literally, like, in the morning have a stand up in the kitchen and be like, right, what's your diary? Can you give me half an hour here? Can you give me 40 minutes there? And we just shuffled daily. And it was the conversation in the morning and then a conversation in the evening. But predominantly the childcare was with me. And that's, I think, a reality for, a lot of women. But to be honest, it's not really the childcare that's the biggest problem. I think it's the broader picture of running a household that I think tends to fall to the female in the family. And that's just because women are much better at understanding, what the kids need for school and what activities they're doing. And like, there's parent teacher conferences coming up, like all of that information is kind of kept in my head, whether I was working or not working. And I think that the overwhelm of all of that versus just, an increase in business and just the general culture of life in a pandemic was a real struggle. It still is. I mean, I feel like we're coming out of it a little bit for sure, but it's, it has been, it's been a real, a definite nightmare year. Yeah, but it's definitely the majority of the childcare was kind of mine to wrangle.
Right. I want to hear from other people, but I do want to circle back around to that later and just kind of those expectations, those kind of like subliminal expectations that we have that are gendered. Benedetta, welcome back. We lost you there for a minute.
I never have internet problems. And of course today, now I get why every mom last year was going crazy with the Zoom. Well, this year too, I guess, right?
Right.
With Zoom classes, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it definitely has its faults. But I think the era of Zoom bombing is behind us. So we should be good. We're just talking about what was the kind of like between you and your partner, the child care. And actually, I mean, I think it's useful, the clarification Esther made, not just child care, but like household running arrangement that you had with your partner pre-COVID versus what it was like kind of in the throes of the pandemic. I mean, now I think people are sort of starting to come out of that, but yeah, if you could just paint that comparison for us.
It was crazy. We literally had no time for anything extra because with, that it's amazing that when the kids are in school for 6 hours, how fast that 6 hours flies by. I blink and do 3 errands and it's already time to pick them up. that just amazes me. And when they're home, the day just feels like forever. I feel like there's more boredom at home. So there's so much snacking, and I need this, I need that. And having, young children, they don't understand working and having that time to be alone, and needing that Band-Aid for that tiny little scratch is, the biggest thing going on in their day. And they don't understand the importance of what we're doing as moms and as business owners. The childcare was definitely an issue, because I did have childcare pre-COVID, and then not being able to open my home to anyone, that was, that became an issue, because my husband and I both do the business together. So what he does, I necessarily don't do. And what I do for the business, he sometimes doesn't do. So that's where we balance each other out, and help each other out. Obviously, if I had to run the whole thing myself, I could obviously do it, but it definitely helped having him there. So it was always a switch off. And it's funny, because family members would talk about something, and if my husband didn't know, he's like, don't you live with your wife? And you just don't understand. We don't have time for leisurely conversation. It's like, here's the kids, this is what they need, I gotta run. And that's all day long. So it's been a little crazy in that respect. And it's a lot of balancing, and what goes through a woman's mind: laundry, chores, dinner comes every day. And I do food for a living. You would think I had this every day for dinner. I'm like, I don't know what we're having for dinner. Why would you ask me that? You think that I prepared this morning and pulled out recipes? That did not happen. So it's just the everyday going on, and everything just goes to food and fuel. We're just constantly shopping, and having a plant-based diet. It's always fruits and vegetables, grains, fruits and vegetables. So it's just constant running. We're just always running. Which is odd, because I don't have time to go to a gym. So at least I'm running to everywhere I go.
It sounds like you guys might split everything from the business 50-50, but would you agree that that stuff on the home front, in terms of meal planning and grocery shopping for your own family, falls more on your shoulders?
Definitely. I am very blessed. I'm knocking on wood. My husband does cook, and he's more crazy about cleaning than I am. So he does, when he's ready, he can really dominate that area. But yes, it's always us. It's always me. And, the kids need something, and it's just, mommy has to do it.
Mommy, right. But there's an important lesson here. Ladies, find you a man that cleans.
Yes.
That's a good one.
And cooks.
Right.
That's a bonus. So I'll jump in about my experience. So I've always been the primary care person for my daughter. And when I had to think about what you mentioned about what it is like after and balancing, you just kind of keep moving. And to Esther's point about managing, it's almost like you're two CEOs of two separate businesses, one within your household. Some days you are the CFO within your household, making sure bills are paid, or you're a short order chef. That happens quite often. And within COVID, so at first it drove me absolutely nuts, because at first my daughter was in school and she had just started pre-K. And then we went into shutdown and there was no more school. So now I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing with this kid? Now, mind you, she was always, I never sent her to a babysitter. So the homeschooling aspect for me is not abnormal. It was the trying to have a meeting at 9:30 when she had to get on Google Meets, and, her busting in and doing a hi everybody, those type of things. And at first it would frustrate me so much, but then I had to take a really good pause and check in with myself, because again, she's little, she wants mommy, she wants to be seen on camera. I don't particularly like it as much, but I do it. and then it becomes like, okay, well, how do I manage my stress and how do I then organize? So all of last year, I struggled with it. I struggled with, trying to balance what I would do during the day doing business. My schedule was all over the place, but I'm still getting more business. So it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, just, Lord, be with me, please. Just try to manage some of this stuff. A lot of times we would eat out, or I would cook in abundance on the weekend and then freeze and then do those type of things to kind of help out during the week. And then the indoor activities, so now I'm crafting because she's really into Barbies now. So little things to try to keep us occupied while I'm doing the business is where we are. So in terms of my spouse, my husband is, he works for the city. So he's a first responder. So he's not home that often. And so when I think about trying to get him engaged, he's tired. So it's still kind of a, unless I'm at my breaking point where I just get in the car when he comes home and I just leave and just drive around. And that happens quite often. But, our conversations are, texting during the day or when he's home, giving him a rundown as to what she needs. Now, this year I have gotten a little bit more structured in terms of managing schedules across the board. So for example, when we talked about this particular event, I was grateful because it's after school, so I don't have to worry about the back and forth, right? And a lot of my meetings are held when it's like at the ending of her day, because it's just less stressful. You want to try to find ways that help your business. Like I could still type and do things, but in terms of like having live meetings, it's very much about me having an understanding where I can have some self-care in the process and try to minimize some of the stress, because the reality is we're all in this space, right? And however we, manage to do self-care and what that looks like for us, for me, it means having uninterrupted time, meaning like right now, it's quiet because I know that I had to set her up in her personal space to make sure, whether it's with snacks, whether it's with TV, and sometimes I just let it go until I finish my meeting. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's some real triage there. When a Zoom meeting becomes self-care, you know that you are you are adjusting to a new reality. Yeah, I think that's a question that I had, just like the strain that the pandemic is putting on everyone, and the strain obviously of owning your own business. And then it seems like women, and especially mothers, whether or not we're supposed to be perfect equals with our partners, pick up the slack. When something needs to get done, you'll just get it done. And so that the time that cuts into ends up being whatever personal time you have left, whether that's later nights or shorter lunches or whatever it is. So I'm interested in hearing like if and how you guys are making time for self-care, and what, that doesn't need to be like a bath with rose petals, but what are the things that you're doing that are helping you keep your sanity so that you can keep going as mothers and as partners and business owners?
I have the perfect answer for that. Early bedtime. My kids, in the winter, they're already in bed or going to bed at 7:15. It's been dark out since 4:00. The day is over. Goodbye. Now that it's still light out, they kind of fought me on, well, the sun's still out. All right, we'll make it like 8:15. But before 9:00, they're already dreaming. And of course, we don't just go to bed. We stay up till 1, 2. We're watching a show. I crochet constantly every night. That's kind of my escape on what I like to do. So early bedtime is huge because you do get that big gap and I just kind of turn off my day. Like, I don't want to talk about business. We're done. We're not checking out. We are checking in with ourselves. This is my time. And even if it is binge watching a show and eating a bag of chips, that's my business. And then the other two keywords that I feel like I wanted to add to Anita, because I totally can hear her on everything she said. Two words I feel like I'm saying constantly lately is balance and priorities. So with the pandemic, I feel like I just make lists constantly, and every day I update my list. What's priority, what's not, what has to be, and I just go by that. And if it wasn't on the priority list, then it wasn't. If I didn't get to throw the load on, it just wasn't the priority at the time. So I feel like that makes me feel better about the things that I haven't gotten done, because I got other things done, and you can't physically do everything. And there's a reason why women give birth. It's because we just have a higher tolerance for everything, and we can do everything, multitasking. And the balance is balancing. Certain days of the week I do laundry, certain days of the week that I'm in my commercial kitchen. Then I'll have my in-home meetings with my husband on the business and what we're doing, what needs to get done, and house repairs and all the other things that come with it. We just kind of balance it. And if it's not on Thursday and it's not laundry day, it's not getting done. That's it. I just let it go. Letting go is a lot of it's something that I really learned to do. Certain things have to let go.
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of coming to a place where maybe by necessity, learning to cut yourself some slack.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like you all hold yourselves to really, really high standards. Like you don't just want to own a business and be a mom and be a partner. It's like you want to own an excellent business and be an excellent mom, but there's a finite number of hours in the day, so something's got to give, and that doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that wasn't a priority.
I'm so glad you bring that up, Marie, because the thing that we're hearing in our community, we haven't yet used the word guilt, but I think it's really important to bring into the conversation that because we're so highly able to do so much, and I feel like we have that expectation for ourselves already. We have a pretty high expectation for ourselves. I always say that I work with A students. Women are pretty much all A students because if we set our mind to something, we're going to do it. We're going to get it done. And the pandemic has shown so much okay, I don't know how many more things I can add, and how many more things I can juggle. I was already juggling to begin with, and I was already really good, but now you've added homeschooling, and it felt like there were waves of breaking points during the pandemic where it's okay, I can handle the 2-week shutdown, but you're going to shut me down for a couple months now. Okay, not sure we can do that. And it is so interesting because the beginning of the year, there seemed like there was another point where it was okay, I really told myself that 2021, I could make it. I can make it through December, but crap, January is no better. And especially as business owners, I heard so much from business owners in our community that were I set really big goals last year, and then the pandemic happened. I'm not ready. I don't know if I'm ready to set big goals again. I want to. I feel like I should, and that word "should" comes up a lot. I feel like I should have big plans, but I don't know if I can handle anything else happening, and we're still not out of the pandemic yet. Now, luckily, now that we're kind of nearing spring, vaccines are happening. There's a little lightness again. There's some, and there's kids going back to school. That's helpful, but the first part of this year I felt even more difficulty, more problems, or more challenge around how can I possibly hold it together any longer. But I want to say about the guilt part that there's I'm trying to do the best I can, but my kids are unhappy, and maybe I'm keeping them out of school because we have folks who are caregiving older parents while caregiving younger children. It's to keep their parents safe, they kept their kids home, or couldn't bring in, couldn't play with kids in the neighborhood or whatever. And so there's am I ruining my kid's life while trying to make all this other stuff work? And am I hurting them because now I'm on Zoom calls when they're saying, mommy, and want to be with me? There's this, the guilt is somewhere underneath the surface pretty often anyway. And that guilt just like lifted so much during this time. The final thing that I'll say about that is something that Benedetta had mentioned about the early bedtimes. One of the solutions that I've seen in our community is early mornings for them. Like for us, for early mornings, like, okay, what are the pockets of time where no one might need me? 5 a.m. seems to be the answer for a good number of women. It's like, okay, if I can get an hour before the kids realize that I'm awake or they're interested in me, what can I do? Go for a run, check my email, have a cup of coffee without anyone looking at me. That is a beautiful thing. And I think that in itself is self-care, like recognizing that time, taking that time, having the cup of coffee. Wine works too. Yeah. So I don't know about at 5 a.m., but you never know. But having those pockets and recognizing those pockets, I think even if people aren't realizing that self-care, it is, and is necessary for, I would say, kind of sense of self and self-regulation and recognizing that you're beyond the needs of other people, whether they're customers or family members. There's got to be a point where you get to be you.
I think that 100%. I wish I could get up at 5. I really want to. I've tried a couple of times, but someone always hears me, and it's just, I'm like, why am I up watching Mickey Mouse with you when I could be like doing something else? But I think women are just so resilient, and I think this is the thing that COVID really highlighted for me in this kind of self-care conversation. Is certainly from my own experience, I have very high standards of how I am as a mom, how I am as a friend, as a wife, as a business owner, all of those roles that we play, which is about 25. And so I was trying to do everything really, really well. Right at the beginning of COVID, I had like a schedule for the day, literally down to every half an hour, that this is what the kids are going to be doing, outside time, snack time, and by like month 2, I was literally crying in the closet and screaming into a pillow on a daily basis, because it was like, you can't sustain this. This is unsustainable. You need to just let the air go and just let the worry go, because none of it actually really matters. Like, it doesn't really matter if your kid watches 3 hours of TV so that you can get the 5 things done that mean that your family functions. It's not going to hurt them. Like, put something educational on and just be okay about it. And I did a lot of that this summer, of just, you know what, they're safe, they're healthy, they're fine. They can learn all this stuff later on. And I think that you have to kind of give yourself the grace to say, you're not a bad mum if you do that, or you're not a bad mum if you just fed them pizza 2 nights in a row because you just couldn't get it together to get to the grocery store, because getting to the grocery store with 2 toddlers is a nightmare. And I haven't got my act together to do the click and collect. And that I got to the point where I was like, you know what, if they don't have 7 balanced meals a week, they're going to be just fine. Something has to give. So for me, this sort of self-care component, which I'm just such a work, like it's the foundation of my business, but I'm a constant work in progress on the self-care front, because I have to keep reminding myself that it doesn't matter. Like, all the things that you think matter ultimately don't. And I'll never sort of really forget, someone put like a note on my desk once when I was working that said 80% just fine. And I have to keep reminding myself of that. Like, 100% is unattainable, and it's not necessary. Most of the time, things being done to like an 80% factor, pretty good. Right. So I think giving yourself a break and letting go a lot of that worry as a pure act of self-care is a lot of the time the fundamentals. Having time to breathe and be on your own is another very, very equally important one, because I think the suffocation that you can feel of like constantly being either in, babysitting your business or babysitting your family, and where is the time for you, and where is the time for you to kind of fill the cup and be your creative self as a human, because we all have that creative outlet in some way. Finding those moments that give you joy and make you feel like you are the person that you feel that in deep inside that you are, is really hard, and identifying those things is difficult too. And I think I had a lot of time alone with the children, which is a lot of time alone to think as well. And I did a lot of kind of, what is it that I need to do at the end of the day that's going to make me feel like I can breathe tomorrow? And that was like 20 minutes of being on my own and like moving, whether it's, you know, just being in a closet on my own or going for a quick walk or anything. But those sort of small little moments of just letting the steam out of the pressure cooker are so important, but very hard to negotiate when you are the primary carer and the primary person in a business.
Right.
Sometimes
every day I was just think it's important to mention that there is there's also no stability in your emotions, because as a woman we have a cycle, and I don't know about you guys, but like I know where I am in my cycle intimately, and it's those days can be very different. So you can wake up one morning and think it's a good day, and it's really not. And another day you can wake up sort of thinking, oh God, I don't know what's happening, and it turns out to be a really great day. So my whole kind of philosophy on that has just been, take every day as it comes. If it's a good day, that's a win. And if it's not, just whatever it is that's making it a bad day, it's probably not worth it.
let it go.
I guess sorry.
Go ahead.
You know, my daughter is probably older than some of the ladies here, because I don't have a little one of my own, but my business caters to kids, so I get to hear from different moms what's going on. You know, and it's interesting to hear. For me, I think my alone time or my me time, you know, I saddle up my horse and I take all the kids out riding. And you know, horseback riding for me, you know, is that time that I'm alone. You know, I'm with my horse. It's a solo event, and the kids are, you know, on their ponies riding, and that's been really fabulous for us, you know, through COVID. I like the shutdown. I don't like it from a business point of view, but I loved it because I felt like I could catch up, like somebody pressed pause on the world and I could kind of catch up. You know, my dad had just passed before then, so I had always kind of hoped, you know, could time just stop going? Could everything stop that I could get my feet underneath me? So I didn't find the shutdown to be challenging that way. And I love what I do, but it's definitely different because I don't spend my time in the office. You know, I'm usually out on the farm.
Yeah, I think it's different for a lot of people, depending on what type of business you have, how old your children are. And I just kind of going back to what Esther was saying, I think women, women are kind of elbowing their way into a space that didn't exist for them before. And so there is this need to like be perfect and do all the things and be all the things. And then there's this sort of like backwards thing that I see happen where like we take pride in things like our resilience and our dependability and all of that. But in doing so, we don't leave a lot of room for what fills us up so that we can shine all of those things kind of into the world. And like you got to fill your cup up. It's an asset to be resilient, but you also have to like take care of yourself so you can continue to be flexible.
And Maria, I also want to add the fact that we have to have the courage to ask for help when we need it. I know for myself, I am like super stubborn when it comes to asking for help. And that's because, particularly with, some childhood experiences, I don't want them to be transitioned on to my child. So I have like a very selective few that I can trust with like saying, hey, like I need to just go walk around in a circle or, just do those little things. But um, it's very interesting about how we have to, particularly as women in general, it doesn't matter what race or what culture you come from, the having the courage to ask for help um, is something that I believe that can help to offset some of what we may be experiencing personally. So I know that I'm still a work in progress, but I'm getting a lot better with asking. And a lot of times I don't know what to ask for. I just know that I need, some sort of help because when you're constantly on a go, and you are managing a number of different household experiences or even within your relationship with your spouse, there may be, some things that are happening. It's important just to really have the courage because it does take courage to ask because there is a to your point, I think it was either Marie or Esther that talked about, this perception of perfection that can have, this us feeling like, well, you're Anita Pierce, like really shouldn't be asking for help. And the reality is, just like everyone else, I'm human. I took like even today, I'm like, I'm gonna dress up really cute like I used to when I was in my 20s, because that's how I want to feel right now. To the other thing, and I also wanted to, because it reminded me of when I used to travel on the planes, right? So there is a message that the flight attendants always go through. They say that, in the event of emergency, make sure that your mask is secured before you secure someone else's. And so it makes me think about, okay, well, how did my parents do this, right? Because they had way more children, right? They didn't have a business and they had what I perceive is like less in terms of they didn't have social media, so they didn't have like all these excess pressures, right? And so how did they deal with it? It was way more of us. We had way less, but we turned out okay, a little crazy, but okay, right? And so carrying those two things, one, whenever we travel, and that announcement comes on that we have to, take care and put that mask on for ourselves first becomes important. And thinking about what our parents did and how they survived and how we, are okay today. And asking for help is one of the things that helps me to keep going. And I have some friends, right, that are really good aunties to my daughter. And I have to tell you, it's a blessing. But just really asking is like one that requires a lot of courage. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I'm not a mother, but in my experience, I also struggle with asking for help. And in my experience, when I have asked for help, it has been so incredibly humbling and moving to see who shows up for me. And the actual act of asking ends up being a way to create and reinforce the community that you have and the bonds that you have. So like letting people in to support you and then being there to support them. I think that's great. And yeah, you have to have your own metaphorical oxygen mask on so that you can go out into the world and help all the other people and touch all the other people with your businesses. So we're at 5:03. So I do want to wrap this up. If anybody has any burning last words, Esther, Lauree, Benedetta, you're welcome to jump in. Otherwise,
I just want to say it totally does take a village, and I think that that's the one thing that we've sort of not had during COVID is the village, and so we've all been kind of like, alone in our own village. So I think the biggest benefit that we can all do now is really work to look for the support each other. And the support of other women is so fundamental, I think, to everyone just being successful in general, because we can all definitely learn from each other. And I think that's the beauty of women, is actually we kind of want to. So I think having these forums and these places to kind of come together and share ideas and strategies is so important, and will kind of continue to just be really important as we all navigate the new normal.
Yep, agreed with all that. And just being there for your friends and your mom friends, and understanding, and sometimes just that funny text you send to your friend with that funny gift, whatever it is, that's how we're surviving.
I'm looking at a lot of baby goats in my Instagram feed right now. I'm following like all baby animals. Happy to share some with you if it'll help.
And I think lastly for me is again just really emphasizing staying connected, even to businesses, other business owners, asking questions, and even connecting to Lauree's organization, which is Hudson Valley Women in Business. The online organization and the connections online that you can get is really important, but also really just taking time, even if it's to walk around in circles, or to dress up like you're in your 20s, or, you know, sharing those intimate, funny messages that come through in the group chat are really imperative to going forward. And giving virtual hugs and kisses helps too.
And I hope you have a killer business this year.
Yeah, I wish all of you so much abundance and good luck and resilience and just as much growth as you can possibly handle, but not too much. And thank you all again for participating. We recorded this, so we're gonna put it together and put it online with a little recap. And yeah, sending you all virtual hugs and kisses. Thank you again for participating.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Really nice to be here with you.
Have a great day.